Here we go, the debate the nation needs to have.
Whether or
Do
not
you not worry about emissions at all? Do you
it is
think
insane.
So let me start with the facts, and they all stack up against net zero.
Is that his facts? I'm still waiting for these facts. That it is possible. So when they say shit like this, it's just wrong.
What's the energy mix though? What's the ideal energy mix? If you get rid of net zero, then what does our energy system look like?
Isn't that a bit of a sign that we need to be doing something about it? Oh my god.
Here we go, the debate the nation needs to have. Whether or not net zero by 2050 is a worthwhile goal or a pointless and damaging exercise weakening our nation now and into the future. Two former National Party leaders, two former Deputy Prime Ministers no less, Barnaby, Joyce and Michael McCormack, are making a parliamentary move with a private member's bill against net zero.
Lovely.
We've stuffed it up. I accept that. We've absolutely butchered it, and you've butchered it by going down the intermittent power process. You used to have the cheapest power in the world. With those evil coal-fired power stations, you just have really cheap, reliable power. Now you've got really unreliable, hellishly expensive power.
Okay, already. Pretty sure, a few years ago when coal and oil prices went up, electricity prices went up. So I'm pretty sure that energy prices go up in correlation when oil and gas go up. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is a more expensive form of energy.
And it's on the premise of you trying to achieve this ludicrous idea that Australia, in the minority of the globe, can somehow change droughts, change cyclones, reduce the extinction of species, because Australia is going to change the temperature of the weather.
So do you not worry about emissions at all?
It is insane.
Hi, if this is your first time to my channel and you are enjoying my videos, please drop a like and subscribe, and it will help my channel grow.
Insane.
I'm very much worried about the cost of power when we're getting left behind. I mean, we've got the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, wanting to do a productivity forum, and we're not talking about how we're going to have cheap energy. I mean, this is a crock. It is an absolute crock.
Pretty sure he is talking about cheap energy. I'm pretty sure all the reports all say that as soon as the renewables rollout comes into effect, it is going to be a cheaper option for electricity. So I don't know why even both of them, McCormack and Barnaby Joyce, were both saying that it's an expensive form of power, because it's not. Like, it's shown that coal, like oil and gas, coal as well, are all more expensive forms of electricity, and renewables is showing that it is cheaper. I think the only argument that they've got there is probably just around reliability, but that's a target that they're moving towards, so I don't understand.
Remember, the coalition made the move to formally support net zero back when Scott Morrison was Prime Minister and Barnaby was his deputy. This will be portrayed by much of the media, and certainly by the government and other Green left politicians, as the coalition tearing themselves apart on climate policies, the climate wars breaking out all over again. And of course, that internal disagreement is a big factor in this debate. But with the coalition at such a nadir at the moment, with Labor in the first days of its second term, what better time for the coalition to get its house in order and try to make the best calls for the future of the nation? To discuss this issue...
Now, my understanding is that like a quarter of the coalition is for net zero, and that's sort of on the Liberal side, but then on the National side, I think that's where they're more anti-net zero, is my understanding.
We've really got to separate the facts, the discussion of reality, from the discussion of politics. These are two separate things. Let me start with the facts, and they all stack up against net zero. The first reason is the cost and the economic damage. We were once a cheap energy nation. It was one of our main economic advantages. And the push to reduce emissions has seen us switch to being a high-cost energy nation, which has cost thousands of jobs, increased the cost of living, and undercut our economic future. The push to net zero will cost at least $1 trillion. It'll push power prices even higher.
Hang on, so he just said then it's going to cost $1 trillion. Wasn't like the whole nuclear thing that they proposed by the coalition like going to be, you know, even greater than that? And isn't it meant to be? Isn't $1 trillion like? Is that over what span? Is that until 2050? They talk about facts here, but there was no facts in that at all. That was just spitballing, saying that it's going to be more expensive. Okay, like how much more expensive do you think? Like, what's your evidence for that? From what I've seen in the other reports, and that is that coal, like renewables, was like 79 megawatts per hour cheaper than what coal and stuff was, which was like $200 a megawatt hour. So that's what I've got from the CSIRO report. So that's showing the opposite of what they're saying. So where's your facts? They'll never show it.
High-cost energy nation, which has cost thousands of jobs, increased the cost of living, and undercut our...
What jobs? Jobs in what sector? Like, is it in the energy sector? Is it in the agriculture sector? Like, you're meant to be talking about facts stacked against it, but you haven't even gotten into any facts yet. I mean, maybe I'm just getting
economic
a little bit
future.
Too forward.
The push to net zero will cost at least $1 trillion. It'll push power prices even higher. It'll make electricity supplies less secure, alienate thousands upon thousands of hectares of land in the regions, and it will undercut all industries that rely heavily on electricity, which is just about everything. Now, the second reason that net zero makes no sense is that it cannot be done. No comparable economy has gotten anywhere close to net zero. None.
I'm pretty sure like Scandinavian countries are pretty much almost there. Like Denmark and Norway are pretty much almost there. I think UK is like 50. It's gotten rid of like half of their emissions over the last few decades. So I think there's other countries that are well going towards it. So that's a crock.
Has made the switch to renewables that we're trying to make, and those that are trying are running into the same brick wall that we are. Look at...
I'll show you. How much of Norway is using renewable? Norway has almost entirely renewable-based electric system, with renewable resources accounting for approximately 98 to 100%. Okay. What about Denmark? I mean, I know these are like 84%. So like they're going to reach their target by 2030. So I know these are probably like the two that are like the most closest, but it's showing you that it is possible. So when they say shit like this, it's just wrong.
Germany, look at Spain, look at California. Net zero is a pipe dream. Even when you look at the International Energy Agency, which favours net zero by 2050, its most optimistic outlook looks fanciful. To get there, it says renewable installations will have to triple by 2030. Think of the cost and practicality of doing that, tripling renewable energy in just 5 years. It just isn't happening. In 2021, it said half of all emissions reductions for net zero by 2050 will have to come from technology.
So they're just saying that the technologies isn't there. But like, isn't that kind of more of an incentive to like basically invest in it? If there's a gap in the market there, even if that's like I'm going to assume that this guy has cherry picked this one line and is going to town on it, but if you've already got other countries out there who are all going to be trying to go towards this same goal, I bet you the technology is going to catch up quick.
Not yet available on the market. Now it says the situation is better, and only 35% will have to come from new technologies. More than a third of the emissions reductions task from technology we don't have yet. So it's all about hope rather than actual plans. The IEA says the goal relies on new, smarter infrastructure, low emissions fuels, technology to capture carbon emissions from smokestacks and from the atmosphere, more nuclear power and large land areas for renewables projects. Good luck. Just to highlight the scale of the challenge, check out this point.
Is that his facts? I'm still waiting for these facts.
The IEA says the world will need 2 million kilometres of extra transmission lines built every year for the next 5 years. 2 million kilometres.
Electricity transmission distribution grids need to expand by around 2 million kilometres each year to 2030 to meet the needs of the net zero.
Every year. Look, this stuff is nuts. It just won't happen. So our country is doing immense damage to itself to chase a goal.
So Australia needs 10 kilometres by 2050, apparently, by the AEMO. So if we look at this as what he's referencing, the IEA, the International Energy Agency. Mind you, this is the International Energy Agency, right? This is taking the globe, like all countries, into account. So when he talks about like 2 million kilometers each year, don't think that he's just talking about Australia needs to do that. This is the whole globe, right? Because the AMO says that Australia needs about approximately 10,000 kilometers by 2050, right? 10,000 of the 2 million, like I can't even think of what percentage of that. That's like 0.5%, isn't it? Of the global figure. So that's bugger all. And it also states that China built over 200,000 kilometers of high voltage lines from 2018 to 2023. So over 5 years. So if you can do 200,000 kilometers in 5 years, well, then our target for 10,000 kilometers by 2050, that's super achievable. So, like, again, and this is published on the AMO, on the AMO report. So, I'd like,
for the next 5 years, 2 million kilometres every year. Look, this stuff is nuts. It just won't happen. So our country is doing immense damage to itself to chase a goal it will never meet. Which brings me to the third reason that net zero is madness. Even if the
AEMO has identified 10,000 kilometre target as the lowest cost path to achieving net zero emissions. Yeah, that's sourced is on the Integrated Systems Plan from the AEMO website. Right, so that isn't. I'm just showing you that this is when he talks about he needs facts. You can go to the AEMO website, right? Because what he's referencing is this bloody International Energy Agency plan, and what we can reference is the AEMO, which is the Australian Energy Market Operators, and. It calls for around 10,000 kilometres of new transmission projects by 2050 to connect the new generation across the power system. So it says it right freaking there, right? This is, when you talk about facts, this is the sort of shit you need to be going through, not just a line that's been written in an International Energy Agency report that takes into account like China, the US, like India, like all these like massive places that have such a large impact or have a difference in impact than us. So already, like he's talking about having this facts, but there is no facts.
Every year for the
and I'm not trying to like just push. Like, I'm not trying to personally push net zero as like super pro net zero. I'm just saying, like, when you go hardcore and say that you've got all these facts, but then you can't even just bring up a simple Australian energy report, like, it just shows that you don't know what you're talking about, and you can't start the whole thing by saying the facts are against net zero, but then you're not presenting any.
2 million kilometres every year. Look, this stuff is nuts. It just won't happen. So our country is doing immense damage to itself to chase a goal it will never meet. Which brings me to the third reason that net zero is madness. Even if Australia could get to net zero, even if we spent all that money, found all that new technology, hurt our economy and got there, it wouldn't make one iota of difference to the climate. The only reason to do it, and it would have no impact. We already account for only 1% of global emissions. China emits more in a fortnight than we emit in a year.
Oh man, I hate this talking point. Really annoys me because what they fail. Okay, we are smaller, yes, but we're still like one of the largest emitters of CO2 into the atmosphere. And you're comparing to China. Like the difference is like monumental. Like you're not comparing apples to apples, but we still need to do what we can, and we're still like per capita, we're still one of the major contributors. So we have to do something. It's just stupid how like you keep comparing us to like these major players when like China's going to be like what, like in the top 3, and Australia's like what, like 10th or something like that per capita. So we still need to do something, and you're still missing the fundamental point of like, we in Australia have a really good opportunity at the moment to basically get our foot in the door for renewable energies like production and stuff in terms of like lithium mining and stuff like that. Like, so we can actually get ahead and capitalize on this growing market instead of trying to just rely solely on coal and gas and oil, which like most countries are going to be moving away from. So this talking point is so ridiculous.
Emissions in China and India and Indonesia and a host of other nations
even there, like,
are still rising.
Still rising. China is aiming for 2060 net zero, and I think India is like 2070, right? But these are like the biggest polluters, like these are the biggest emitters out there. But like China is making huge advancements in the renewable energy market. Like they're making pretty much all of the solar panels around the world. They've literally, generating hundreds of gigawatts of energy just through renewable sources. Like they're so far advanced, and what we're going to do, like you're using that as a talking point for us not to do anything, yet they're going to capitalize on it, and they're going to completely just wipe everyone out in the global market. So I don't understand why this is such a strong talking point. It goes against everything.
They're still building coal-fired power stations while we do this to ourselves.
But they've announced that they're going to be phasing it out. Like they're meant to be at their peak. I think it's like 2030 or 2026, something like that. I think it's 2026 for China and 2030 for India. But that's going to be their peak, and then they're going to transition all to new renewables. I mean, obviously over time it's going to go, and also like the a lot of their industries and that are going towards green emission too. So like, trying to offset it and things like that. So like the direction is there. That's what they're not understanding is the move, the transition, the plan. It's all moving, and they seem to actually be able to follow through with it, which we seem to be umming and ahhing about whether we're going to go through with it or not.
The graph of global emissions, you can see they're still heading up. They only dipped for a while when the world shut down for COVID, but they're heading upwards again. So why would we impose all this pain on ourselves?
Yeah, look at those emissions. Isn't that a bit of a sign that we need to be doing something about it? Oh my God. Hi, if this is your first time to my channel and you are enjoying my videos, please drop a like and subscribe, and it will help my channel grow.
They're still heading up. They only dipped for a while when the world shut down for COVID, but they're heading upwards again. So why would we impose all this pain on ourselves, the pain we're already suffering, for no actual gain?
There is gain though. Like it's shown that renewable energies are going to be reducing our overall energy costs, meaning the electricity bills will go down. We're going to be emitting less CO2 in the atmosphere, so that will have some sort of cooling effect on climate change. there's huge, and like we're also in a position where Australia can capitalize on some of like the best technologies and advancements in the renewable energy sector, that we have an opportunity to be able to get our foot in the door early. So, like there's heaps of investment coming through the IGCC, the Investor Group for Climate Change. There's trillions of dollars there that they want to invest into renewable energies. But regulations, and it's I think they're the most like the reason why they're not investing as much is just due to instability in regulation and policies and like within the government. So like this kind of narrative and this kind of rhetoric is the thing that is actually stopping us from advancing in the industry, and it's going to have a negative effect. So it's this kind of narrative, I think, is the thing that's causing the pain.
Actually, madness. And both Joyce and McCormack are calling out the way that regional communities are paying the highest price.
When you've got people in my seat in Maxwell, Mangapla, The Rock, Uranquinty, Bowning, Bynalong, Crookwell, it's like I've been everywhere, man. They're all facing these shysters who come in, these spivs who come in and ride roughshod over farmers. They're signing up one neighbour and not the other, often their brother and sister. They're dividing families, they're ruining friendships that have been going not for years but for generations.
The head of the serpent on this is net zero.
Just to chat, the cost of electricity would go down because the more renewables, like the more electricity provided by renewables, would drive the prices down, because coal and oil and that is more expensive per kilowatt instead of over in renewables. You can search that, like it's almost like it's like $150 or something dollars compared to $70-$90 for renewables.
It's trying to attain this crazy idea that Australia by itself, because remember, China's not doing this.
I get that, Barnaby,
India's
but
not doing
what's
it.
the practical outcome of it? What's the energy mix, though? What's the ideal energy mix? If you get rid of net zero, then what does our energy system look like?
So what's the point?
This is see, he's not going to answer this, because what these guys are, very, very good at doing is they will just shit on net zero, saying that it's unachievable. You need to can it, blah blah blah. But then you get the other side, which is like, okay, well, what's your alternative? Okay, if it's so bad, what do you think the alternative is? To just keep burning coal, oil, gas, and just stick with what we've got, and then you literally just see as it becomes more in demand, then the prices will go up. That's exactly what happened a few years ago in 22, which is why the electricity spiked then. You're going to be relying on a source that is not renewable, and that's going to drive the price up regardless.
If it's doing this, if the rest of the majority of the world, majority of the economies of the world are not doing it.
But isn't that an important question to answer, though? When you sit here and say, get rid of net zero, I don't care about some arbitrary target. I want to know what you think our energy mix should look like.
Yeah, we should have more baseload power. Yes, you should have more coal-fired power stations. You should contend with nuclear. You already have intermittence. You have, as
There's only electricity. Yeah, so that's the electric companies. That'll be a regulated. The ACCC sort of regulate the prices from that. So they'll be like going into price gouging and stuff like that. So the ACCC basically monitor to make sure that the electricity companies aren't taking advantage of customers and stuff like that.
Ron himself says you've got about 42% intermittence.
Yep. Net zero by 2050 is an horrendously expensive.
See, look, and he's not even going to give like what's an alternative either. So this lady pushing Barnaby here to give an alternative, he won't. And this guy here, he won't give an alternative either.
And impractical burden we are imposing on our soil.
That's an Australian. Yeah, the ACCC is an Australian thing. From a global point. I'm not too sure. I can't really speak too much on it. But renewables is going to be a cheaper form of electricity. If Australia can do it, everyone else can do it. That's for sure.
That will not actually be achieved, and would do absolutely nothing for the planet, the environment, or the climate if it was achieved. So the right...
See there, just saying what he just said then, saying like it's not going to do
the
anything.
Environment or the climate, if it...
It's Denmark, Norway have already shown that reducing CO2 is possible. They've almost got 100% renewables in both, 85 for Denmark, 98 for Norway. They've reduced their CO2 emissions, so it's going to have an impact. All right, sweet. Thanks, Chatter. Prawn, Jovi, appreciate it.
was achieved. So the right of centre parties should oppose it. They never should have supported it. They're supposed to be in favour of rational policies, pragmatic decisions, not virtue signalling and ideological frolics. So if they're true to their core values, they would opt out of net zero. But that's the reality. That's the logic. On top of all of that, there's the politics, and that can be tricky. For Susan Lee, the first question time as opposition leader today, this ensured that she had a baptism of fire. She wanted to turn the heat on Labor over its planned superannuation tax.
Prime Minister, it takes a lot to unite Paul Keating and John Howard, but both are totally against this unfair tax.
I'm going to just jump in regarding Susan Lee. I actually, I watched, this question time. It was actually really good. I reckon she actually is playing the opposition leader quite well initially, especially like stepping into the role. Like she's not exactly going too hard on the current government at the moment, and I think like Albo kind of hasn't said too much about her as opposition leader, so like it's going to be an interesting way to see like how these two interact. But I think she's actually doing a pretty good job at the moment. She's not coming out guns are blazing, and she's not completely shutting down everything that Labor does. I think she's sort of doing a good job at settling in instead of going too hard, because at the end of the day, like, we're still got another 3 years of Labor in government, so there's lots of time for her to basically build up her armory and maybe develop some ways of attacking the policies and breaking down what Labor's doing. So I think she actually did quite well.
Will the Prime Minister abandon his plans to work with the Greens and instead join me, the crossbench, Paul Keating and John Howard to reject this unfair tax?
Yeah, well, of course, Labor's going on with that. But, of course, Labor couldn't wait to zero in on the climate wars.
I've been given a copy of the Coalition's anti-net zero bill. I'm not sure if the Leader of the Opposition's seen one, but I have. It came into my possession. That's going to be moved by the member for New England. We saw the member for New England, the new dream team, the dream couple, the member for New England, the member for Riverina, out there this morning backing each other in.
Fair enough. The politics are all a bit untidy. The Liberals are reviewing all their policies. The Nationals are looking specifically at energy. So they could both oppose net zero or both support it, or the coalition parties could go different ways. Until they decide, the debate's going to be messy.
Over and over again now, the electorate has told us that they want to see a net zero energy future. They want to see emissions come down. That's what successive elections have told us. Now, my personal opinion is that this is profoundly important.
Well, that's not actually true. The coalition has only taken net zero to an election twice, and they lost both times under Scott Morrison in 2022 and Peter Dutton this year. When the coalition won in 2013, 2016 and 2019, they did not back net zero, and they had climate policies far less extreme than Labor's. Still, if you want to see a disconnect from reality, have a listen to some more from Labor's climate.
I don't know what point he's trying to make there, because at the end of the day, like, I think it was something like 3/4 of Australians wanted to see some sort of action towards net zero. So if you're going to go back and say, okay, well, all the previous coalition governments won because they didn't push net zero, that doesn't really, when like all the polling saying that most people support net zero, so especially the 2050 target. So I don't understand what they're trying to get at there, and the whole anti-net zero. Like if they're going to try and pull that, I'm pretty sure that's not going to go well with the Paris Agreement, and then we're going to have even bigger like trade and diplomatic blowbacks, and there's going to be heaps of like investor issues regarding all of that. So I don't think pulling it back is a good idea or a good position to go down.
Energy Minister.
What they're really doing is betraying people in rural and regional Australia, because people in rural and regional Australia are people who pay the price of drought and floods, Mr Speaker, which will be more common and more severe under climate change. It's people in rural and regional Australia who have the most to gain out of the jobs and investment created by net zero, Mr Speaker. That's what the Albanese government gets. That's what those who betray rural and regional Australia do not understand.
Really? This is a grown adult, a government minister, a sentient being apparently, who is pretending that building wind farms in Australia will change the climate. He reckons his wind turbines and solar panels and EVs will reduce the severity of droughts and floods in this land, which happens to be a land of droughts and flooding rains.
All right, mate, this has pissed me off. It's not saying that, solar, wind, renewables, all that sort of stuff is going to, get rid of all the droughts and all the sort of natural disasters and those sort of things. It's going to reduce the CO2, our CO2 emissions, and then that is going to have the effect on the climate. It's going to have, a cooling of of climate change, right? So it's not like it's a one for one. Like I wish they would speak about it in clearer terms instead of saying like, oh, so moving to wind is gonna make sure there's no more droughts and stuff like that. Like it's not that. It's a few domino effects that need to happen in order for that end goal. Okay, it's speaking this in this totality way is it's not. It doesn't help the narrative at all, and it doesn't actually paint the real picture of what's actually going on. The renewables are meant to reduce the CO2 emissions, and then reduced CO2 emissions will then have a positive effect on climate change. Like that's what it actually is.
It is idiotic. It is scientifically absurd. But it's what we have in government. It's what
And this guy keeps crapping on about was scientific, but you haven't actually provided any sort of facts or any sort of scientific evidence. It took me like literally 10 seconds to pull up an AMO, report about, all the transmission lines. And that was quick. That's all it takes. So stop going on about all these facts you have and then actually start displaying something.
And we have to wear the consequences. My advice to the coalition is very direct. Choose the policy that is rational. Forget the politicking and trying to work out which demographic backs this sort of Bowen fantasy and which doesn't. Just work through the logic and support the policy that will deliver the best results for Australia. It doesn't mean you don't want to be cautious and reduce our emissions. You can do that sensibly with nuclear energy or with reforestation and with some renewables. But if you back the logical plan, the politics will look after themselves.
What's the logical plan?
Facts and the events that
you haven't actually proposed a different plan.
As they unfold, they will bolster all of your arguments. Right of centre policies, the coalition must go with facts and logic and leave the virtue signalling and the ideological crusades to the Green left. First, because that's their duty, that's why people vote for them. But second, because that will also take them on the path to success.
All right, well, that was fun. Fuck you now. All right, let's go to...
No, instead we're going to talk...
All right, Big Tony Abbott, let's see what what's going on here. Hi, if this is your first time to my channel and you are enjoying my videos, please drop a like and subscribe, and it will help my channel grow.